The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
Tonight on The Agenda.
One of the challenges that every government has is when the poor health minister walks in the door and says, we need X million dollars for this program. And you say, okay, fine. What happened to the X million dollars I gave you last year?
Then, later on The Agenda.
We work behind the scenes with all the people in the governing party to try to make sure we deliver for our community, make sure we're advocating for our community. But there's more to just politics than voting for something.
Also tonight.
As you get deeper, you're going further and further back in history. All lakes have that feature where as you go deeper in the sediments, they go further back in history. But this core replica is from a very special lake called Crawford Lake.
Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Ontario's 38th Finance Minister, Peter Bethlenfalvy, will rise in the legislature and continue a tradition that started nearly 157 years ago. He'll unveil the province's budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Essentially, how Ontario plans to spend roughly $200 billion. Budget Day is almost always the single most important day on Queen's Park's political calendar. What goes into budget making? How much of it reflects what the finance minister wants versus the premier or his other cabinet colleagues? Well, we've got three former finance ministers here who have all the answers. So let's welcome, in chronological order, Ernie Eves, finance minister from 1995 to 2001, and of course, Ontario's 23rd premier. Janet Ecker, the first ever female finance minister in Ontario to bring in a budget. She had the job from 2002 to 03. And Greg Sorbara, finance minister from 2003 to 05, and then again from 06 to 07. And it's great to have you three former treasurers and one former premier here at our table today. I introduced in chronological order, so let's start in inverse chronological order. Take us back to the beginning of the budget-making process. He'll get up tomorrow and give the speech, but when did the actual crafting of the budget start?
Well, you know, Steve, it almost starts the day after the last budget is presented.
I know everybody says that, but is that really true?
Well, about 6 months before Budget Day, you start to think about what's going to be in the budget. You have to realize that a budget, in Ontario's case, is really a presentation of all of the plans that the government has for that year and for a number of years to come. So it's a planning process that really takes a full year, but the actual work starts 5 or 6 months before it's presented.
Janet Ecker, at what point do you have a meeting with the premier and ask him, okay, is there a theme to this budget I should be following? Do you want to direct me in any particular way? Are you waiting to hear direction from me, or et cetera?
Well, it's basically the government's telling its story. You know, what is its story? I mean, there's a lot of that, and that's as important, I think, as the actual financial statements in the document. But it's an iterative process. There's conversations certainly with the premier. Some premiers are, and I will let one premier here speak for himself, but some premiers are very directive. Others are, you know, you tell me what you would, you know, what you want to do, what you're thinking about. But it should be an iterative process. And the other thing that you should try and do, I think, and I know certainly from my first budget, because we had a couple of really challenging decisions to make, was we did a lot of consultation with caucus. We were actually more open with caucus, I think, than had happened previously, just because we wanted them to understand the challenges that we had. And they were very supportive of the decisions that we eventually ended up making in that particular budget.
Because you've done that legwork ahead of time.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
So the consultation piece of it is really important, in that iterative process, I think, really makes a better budget at the end of the day.
So when you were, let's start with when you were finance minister and Mike Harris was the premier. Do you go to him and say, Mike, what do you want in this budget? Or shall I tell you, or should you tell me, or tell me? How did it work?
All off the record. All off the record.
We had a quite interesting government when we first started, of course. We had the Bob Rae government deficit, and we pledged during the campaign to eliminate that. And there were three controversial aspects to that, which we stood behind. So the very first economic statement I was permitted to give, I wasn't allowed to call it a budget, because we had just literally became the government 3 weeks before that. Mind you, I didn't sleep much in those 3 weeks. It was like 24/7 for 3 weeks. we iterated what we wanted to do in the first year, and then the first budget I actually delivered, I think, was in the spring of '96. Mike and I had known each other for quite a while. I was fortunate because we had a great relationship, and we'd known each other for years before we got elected. We'd played golf together. He was in municipal politics in North Bay. He was on the Board of Education. We were both on the same riding association together, the Perry Sound Riding Association.
Where you eventually ran.
May surprise people know Nipissing Township, where Mike came from, is actually in Perry Sound District. It's not in the district of Nipissing. However, Mike was very generous to me in terms of the only budget that his office actually looked through every single page on and every line on was my first one. And after that, I basically had free rein to do what I wanted in succeeding budgets, except that you get a call from the Premier's office from time to time, like, we'd really like to perhaps see something about this and something like that. That does happen. I don't know if everybody's had that relationship that I was party to because of our great personal relationship.
Let me find out, because I think it's fair to say you did not have the long-standing relationship with Dalton McGuinty that he would have had with Ernie Eves. So when you're putting together that first budget, how much of it is, I'm the finance minister, I'm going to do what I want, and how much of it is, he's the premier, he's going to tell me what to do?
No, but Dalton and I worked very closely together. I mean, we had the experience of rebuilding the party for almost 5 years after I became, or 4 years after I became president of the party. So we were working very closely together. And the budget process was really a project that he and I were very, very involved in. We knew that our first budget had to be about health care. We knew that in our first budget, we had to make a choice between continuing to run a deficit or introducing new taxes. Each of those things was a matter of breaking a political promise in the 2003 campaign, and we decided to raise taxes. But it was a decision that we worked on together. I remember bringing, I think, 4 or 5 proposals for new taxes to the Premier's office, and we'd sit around and he would say, no, we're not doing that, so bring me something else. We finally landed on the Ontario Health Premium, which has been part of the tax structure of the Ontario government ever since that budget.
But was it him telling you, we're going to have to raise taxes, tell me how to do it? Or was it you telling him, if you want to fulfill all those commitments you made in the election campaign, we're going to have to raise taxes?
Well, it's the issue that we debated, and ultimately we decided that it was going to be new taxes rather than not fulfilling the programmatic commitments, including health care, which is always in desperate need of new funding in Ontario.
I guess I should take, you were his finance minister, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so why don't we have,
Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah,
let's reenact that.
That's exactly what I wanted to do.
No.
That's exactly what I want to do. Did you ever go to him and say, we need more money, can I raise taxes?
Well, actually, what we had to do in the first budget is, because what had happened was, and when you're thinking about budgets, you've got to think more than, and as you know, not just the first year or the second year, you got to think about the challenges down the road. And we had gotten ourselves into a position where there was a tax cut coming of some, I think, $2 billion some in the election year. And we're all sitting here going, okay, this is kind of cool, but in an election year, people want to spend on new things. You want to have room to spend on new things for the campaign. So do we delay it? Do we cancel it? Do we delay it? Do we go forward with it and worry about the challenge, sort of a year later, whatever? And that was one of the things we talked to caucus about, was should we delay this? And it was as significant, I think, for us, given the political brand, as it was for you and the Premier, when you had to say, we're going to break a promise, we're going to delay tax cuts a year, which in the time was seen as an incredible revolutionary thing. But it gave us a lot more flexibility in the next year or two to do things that you're going to want to do when you go into an election.
How much leeway did he give you to do what you wanted versus you taking direction from him?
Well, the challenge is, first of all, I'd known Ernie all through our elected career, because I was elected in '95 with him. Well, he was there earlier with Mike, but and also I'd supported him for leader. So it wasn't like we didn't know each other at all, right? So, but again, it was, I think, an iterative process, as it should be. I mean, there were things he wanted, there were things I wanted, and sometimes we argued about it, sometimes we didn't, and you just kind of saw off somewhere in the middle.
And how tempted were you to tell her what to do, given that you'd already brought in, 5, 6 budgets? Five budgets as finance minister.
Not counting the
economic statement. Right.
That's right, right. Yeah, that's right.
You must have been tempted to want to tell her what to do, given that you'd had so much more experience at it.
Yes, he had.
No, actually, I wasn't tempted.
Is that true?
I probably had the benefit of, I think, one of the best deputy ministers of finance this province has ever seen,
very much
by the name of Michael Gourlay, who unfortunately is no longer
The
with
late
us.
great, yes, indeed.
And he had like an idea a day. He reminded me, Hugh Siegel, he'd come into your office every morning and say, hey, I think we should do this. I said, Mike, we can't do that. It's politically not correct. We can't do that. Okay, well, I'll be back tomorrow with another idea. And he sort of, I think, helped
Michael was very
Janet
helpful.
and her staff through the budgetary process. So I had no concerns.
Yeah.
And I'd known Janet, of course, for quite a while. I actually knew her when she worked for Keith Norton. I don't know if you remember
That's
that.
right, down in the Davis government. Yeah, that's right.
And I appointed her finance minister, but I didn't think that she was capable or up to the job. She wouldn't have been there.
You mentioned Bill Davis, and I want to go back to, there was a great movie made by Peter Raymond, a documentary called The Art of the Possible, in which he basically got, I don't know how he did it, but he got behind the scenes in the Bill Davis government days, so it was 70-something, and basically got into all kinds of private meetings about how the budget process worked. And one thing we learned is that when you put a budget together 45 years ago, the finance minister and ministry basically did it all, and Bill Davis walked in there the day before the budget was going to be announced and said, maybe tweak that a bit, and that was it. So here's what I want to know. How much of that went on when you were putting budgets together?
Well, it was really a project that involved the Premier and myself directly. And
so lots of input from the Premier's office.
We decided in each budget what the theme was going to be. In year 1, it was health. In year 2, it was post-secondary education. In year 3, it was infrastructure. And in year 4, it was social services to Ontario's most vulnerable populations. But those were decisions that really emerged with the Premier coming out of Cabinet. And Cabinet was always supportive of those themes and played into those themes. But the actual work was driven by the public service, driven by the Premier's office, and to a lesser extent, driven by the issues that caucus would bring up from time to time.
So what happens, there must have been a moment as this budget is being put together where Doug Ford told Peter Bethlenfalvy, look, I want this in there, and Peter Bethlenfalvy pushed back and said, well, if I do that, I'm not going to be able to do, right? Those conversations happen.
Yeah.
So tell me about something that happened when you were there where Dalton McGuinty said, I want this, and you said, well, I can't do that because if I do that, then I can't do this, and you want that too.
Well, there were, I go back to the first budget where we decided that we were going to raise taxes, and we brought proposals that we thought were reasonable. And he just, together with his team just said, no, that's not going to work. We are not going to do that. So please come back with something else.
Do you remember what he rejected? What did you propose he rejected?
I remember that we were thinking about a slight increase in income taxes, a slight increase in corporate taxes, going down the road, we had a real difficult battle on increasing the minimum wage. And I think this was in my final budget, and I was very concerned about the economic impact of increasing the minimum wage. And the Premier and his office really wanted to move the yardsticks on minimum wage. And it was a battle that he won, and I'm glad he won it because we did the right thing. And his advice was better than the advice that I was getting from my bureaucrats.
What did you and Mike Harris cross swords on, where either he wanted something and you didn't want to do it, or vice versa?
I don't think there was anything significant, but there were smaller things, for example.
Like what?
For example, the tax on horse racing in the province of Ontario. Everybody else had an entertainment tax of 0.5%. And the horse racing industry in Ontario, which was in danger of going out of business, had a tax rate of 5%, which was significantly higher than 0.5%.
Right.
And I went to Mike and said, we got to make this playing field level. They're in the entertainment business. Oh, well, how's that going to look if we give horse racing industry a tax break? And I said, well, it's the fair and proper thing to do. And eventually he agreed with me, but he didn't like the idea at first, let me put it that way.
But you persuaded him that that was the way to go,
I did.
And you eventually prevailed.
Yes, a very small issue, but
Small victory.
A small victory.
But you take
yeah,
them where
yeah.
you can get them.
Yes, you
Now,
can.
do you recall another instance where maybe you were not able to persuade him and he told you what to do and you had to just suck it up?
not really. I can't really say so. I can tell you, though, a few things that he came to me about. People may or may not know that Mike has an autistic child. And he came to me in one of my very first budgets and said, I'd really like to see something for autism in this budget. And it was the very first time the province of Ontario, any government, had ever done anything for autism. And I think we started at a very modest sum of around $50 million a year, which rapidly became about $350 million a year. And I feel, I'm always very concerned about those parents and those young people, because there will never be enough money to help every single autistic child in the province get to where they deserve to be. And it's difficult. It's very frustrating at times. But you do what you can, and you suck it up, and you go ahead and you try to help as many people as you can. Special education was another one that was very dear to me because of my late son, Justin. He had dyslexia. And I'm proud to say that while I was finance minister, I doubled, then tripled the amount of money being spent on special education in the province of Ontario. And I must say that I had no disagreement with Mike about that at all. He was fully supportive.
Let's pretend for a second he's not here. So tell me something that you two would have fought over when you were the finance minister. Either you wanted it in and he was saying no, or you didn't want it in and he was saying do it.
Well, I'm going to fall back on budget confidentiality, not on that I can't remember.
You're no fun.
No, I mean, I don't think there were any sort of, knockdown, drag-out fights over any issue. I mean, there were a lot of, and as he said, it was interesting because the actual deputy minister was a wonderful guy by the name of Bob Christie.
Right.
And he had Mike Gurley, who, as you say, was really helpful. But Mike drove us all crazy, I think, with bright ideas that he wanted in. And some of them were things that the Premier said, no, that sounds like a good idea. But at the end of the day, we sort of saw it off in the middle, and it made it work.
Let me try this then. How much of this is going to be a real capital P? I want all three of you to talk about this. We are not so naive as to think that the relative political futures of cabinet ministers is not at stake when you folks are putting budgets together. In other words, if I do this, because I think it's going to be good for my future, it might have a great advantage if I end up screwing that guy over there as well and hurting his future. And that kind of stuff happens, right? Can you give us an example of that?
No, actually, I'll give you a reverse example.
Okay.
Helen Johns was the Minister of Agriculture, and she'd been long-term care as well. But anyway, and Helen had come to me in my first budget and said, I want X amount of money for the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, I mean, that's usually not, in the current environment, one of the high priority ministries of a government. But Helen had done her homework. She had a very detailed plan about what she and the ministry were going to do with the money, and I gave it to her. And they did. They did it, and it worked really, really well. So she came back the next year, and she asked for another amount of money. And everybody was, yep, you're going to do it, because she had done her homework and made it happen, and politically put out a couple of fires, for the government. That they weren't going to bring the government down, but anytime you can put out a fire is a good thing. So some ministers are good at that, others are not. And so you kind of have to judge. I mean, and one of the challenges that every government has is when the poor health minister walks in the door and says, we need X million dollars for this program. And you say, okay, fine. What happened to the X million dollars I gave you last year? I mean, the numbers.
Was last year.
Oh, the numbers just, I don't think the Ministry of Health ever brought in a number that was the same 6 months later. I mean, it's just an incredible.
Do you remember what you spent on health in one of your budgets?
I should have looked at it. A lot. It was a heck of a lot more than when we first came in, because we promised we were going to protect the health budget at $17 billion.
17.
It's 17
You know what it is
billion.
today?
Yeah, today it's what, 50?
80.
80. Yeah. Yes, 80. Sorry, yeah.
Isn't that
80
incredible?
million. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
And it still needs more money. It's just one of those challenges you never meet.
Let me try this with you, because when you were Mike Harris's finance minister, as you went on in the second term, you're probably thinking to yourself at some point, Mike's going to leave. I might want to run for the leadership to replace him. So might that guy and that guy and that guy. And I want to do something that will help me and maybe coincidentally hurt them. Give me an example of how you did that.
this may shock you. This may shock you,
It will.
but it's true.
Yeah.
I never thought I was going to run to be the Premier of the province. That was never my objective, never even crossed my mind. I was quite happy being the Minister of Finance and Deputy Premier. I think I did a relatively good job in the 6 years that I was there doing that. I'd retired from public life. I had a nice cushy job at Credit Suisse First Boston as the Canadian chairman. And then Bob Runciman and some of my colleagues, former colleagues, persuaded me to come out of the private sector and go back into politics.
This is a very unhappy story because it doesn't sound like you used the budget process to screw any of your political rivals.
No, I did not. But there are always cabinet ministers, as Janet was just pointing out, there are always cabinet ministers that want more than you will be able to give them. And it is difficult because you're dealing with these individuals who are proponents, as they should be, for their particular area in government, their particular ministry. And you can't give, there's not enough money to give everybody everything they want all the time.
Okay, well, let me try it this way. When you put budgets together, did you ever think to yourself, and you can admit it, it's, as you say, it's 20 years later, no one cares anymore. Did you ever think, well, I really like this minister. We're good friends. I like what they're doing. I'd like to give their career a boost. So I'm going to help them. And you know what? This person over there, they're always nattering at me, and I don't like them at all. I'm going to try and just make their life a little more difficult.
Well, the two that come to mind.
Oh, here we go.
It wasn't doing somebody in or doing someone a favor, but two of the more aggressive ministers, Gerard Kennedy, education minister, always asking for more. And I would say to my political staff, get him off my case. You know, because there was never enough money for education, like there was never enough money for health. And the other was Michael Bryant, who was the Attorney General, who I was very fond of. And it's not a big budget. And if I could do something to help him out in his ministry with a little soupçon of something in the budget for him, I would do it. But the relationship between myself as finance minister and the other ministers ultimately was pretty good, and most of them were satisfied, at least to the extent you can be satisfied in that kind of
Yeah, and secondly, too, I mean, you don't want to do something that's going to make another minister like deliberately look bad, because it's bad for the government.
I'm so glad you raised that, because I've got a great example of where I think that happened, and you were the one who was made to look bad. You're the Premier. You're the Education Minister. Jim Flaherty is the Finance Minister.
Yeah.
And he pulled a rabbit out of his hat, and I don't think you knew it was coming. Or if you did, you didn't get much of a heads up on it. Roll tape.
The minister could put a thing or two in his speech, which could be highly controversial. And in fact, Jim Flaherty, whose funeral is today, I think actually did that to Janet Ecker when right at the end of his budget speech, he said, oh, and by the way, we're going to create a tax credit for for parents who send their children to private schools. Nobody but a few people in the Premier's office, Mike Harris's office, and in Flaherty's office knew about it. Janet didn't know a thing about it.
And she was the Education Minister.
And she was the Education Minister.
Okay, yeah, misstatement by the host. You weren't the Premier yet. This was, well, Mike Harris was Premier. Obviously from a show we did 10 years ago about this very thing. Okay, is that what happened?
Well, I did have some heads up. Not a lot.
How much?
Not a lot. About a week and a half, something like that. Yeah.
You would have wanted more for such a significant policy change.
Yeah.
A dramatic policy change.
It was a dramatic policy. And what was ironic?
It was one of the things that ended the Conservative reign in Ontario because it was such a controversial thing. And John Tory tried to campaign on it and make it even bigger. And it was a huge political issue. And by the way, it was bad public policy.
And you reversed it when you came in.
We sure did.
Well, one of the ironic things about it was, of course, I got to be finance minister the next year. And I inherited the problem of implementing it, trying to execute on it, and which was a bit of a challenge.
Did you want to do that?
No, not the way it was done. Not the way it was done.
So this would have given a tax break for people to send their kids to private schools, independent schools, I guess some religious-based schools and so on.
And to me, one of the things I always think is important is that, certainly parental choice is important, but so is accountability for public dollars. And if you're going to spend public dollars on a program, there needs to be an accountability so you know, is it working, how's it working, et cetera. And public education is important. I mean, as I said, I support parental choice in a lot of different ways. But public education is also very, very critical.
The budget will be read tomorrow. That speech that budget, when is it actually put to bed? In other words, beyond which you cannot change it.
Well, I can remember a few that weren't put to bed till, I mean, literally, there were people up all night printing the day, the night before the budget. That doesn't happen often, but it does happen. The budget speech, I think people sometimes confuse the budget with the budget speech. The budget is in a mass, a huge document that is tabled with the clerk of the legislature on that morning. But the budget speech is really just a pronouncement of what's in the budget, what the government wants to highlight is in the budget, et cetera, et cetera.
So the speech they can work on right up to the last minute.
The speech.
But the budget itself.
I wrote little notes all over and quite often changed it and threw the one I had out.
Okay. But the budget itself goes to bed when, a week ahead of time?
Preferably, yes.
Preferably.
Whenever it can go to the printer in time to be represented.
Yes, new technology, I think, has shortened that window quite a bit, because I think it used to be closer to 2 weeks. But
my own experience was the numbers were locked down 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There may be some minor editorial writing in the budget document, but not much. 2 weeks, about 2 weeks beforehand, it would go to the printer.
Yeah.
The speech,
I was just going to say, but the other reason why that piece is really important is because you have to make sure that once you know what's in the budget, how are you going to help your team, your caucus, go out there and sell it? So, I mean, that material needs to be developed and ready to go in their little packages for your colleagues in caucus, so they can walk out the door that night and be part of the sales job, because that's a big piece of the budget, is selling it.
And again, when Mr. Bethlen-Falvey gives the speech tomorrow, he will stand up at 4 o'clock and he will deliver a speech that, he rehearsed in front of a mirror 25 times before giving, that people coached him on, or he'll go in there and just wing it, or how does it work?
Well, if he's a good minister, he will have practiced the delivery of that speech a lot. How much did Joe Biden practice his State of the Union address? A lot. And it was a great delivery. It's the same with the budget speech. It's just a performance. It's not the budget, but it's the performance that explains why the budget is doing what it does, and why it's important, and why it's great for the province. No one remembers it. Clips are shown on news programs, but in day two, people are talking about what's in the budget, not about the budget speech. But as a finance minister, you want to do your best. It's your day. It's your performance.
It really is your day. And did you practice it a lot before you gave your speeches?
I practiced it, but I wouldn't say a lot. I often changed a lot of things, in handwriting, blah, blah, blah. You always get to ad lib a little bit, at least I did. And you usually dedicate the budget to somebody or some entity. I remember dedicating, I think it was my first one, to my mother, who was still alive. My dad was not at the time. And I told a little anecdote about my mother wanted me to go and talk to her and her bank manager about her finances, and something to do with her house. And she knew that I had a propensity to be late when I was showing up to meet with her. And her comment to me was, "Ernie, we're meeting with the manager at 10 o'clock. This person is important. You better not be late." I was just chopped liver as the Minister of Finance. So there are those humorous things. I can also remember delivering a budget when I commented on, I think it was the fund I gave to the cultural institutions in the province of Ontario that they could match, $3 to $1, and I think I put either $25 or $50 million in it. Mike had no idea this was coming, and he was sitting beside me, and he said, "Oh, that's a good idea." That's one of the anecdotes that I will always
That never happened to me.
No. Well, when I did my first budget, because I was the second finance minister from the little town of Exeter, and there were three.
Charlie McNaughton.
Yes, there were three women cabinet ministers from Exeter in the Harris-Eves government, but Charlie, I was the second one. So what I did was I took a quote out of his first budget and used it in my budget, and had invited his whole family and the relatives and everything, because of course he had passed away by then, to come and sit in the gallery and introduce them and whatever. So you can do kind of fun things to make it, I guess, your budget, or to put some humanity into all the figures and printed numbers and everything else.
Did you ever do something like that?
Oh, not really. No, I mean, I have such powerful recollections of my first budget speech, because my very dear friend, John Baird, from the other side just heckled the bejesus out of me so much that I had to stop, and he was ultimately thrown out of the legislature.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was just, and my young daughter was up in the gallery, and after the speech, she said, "How could that guy do that to you?" And I said, "Don't worry, he's a good friend. He was just attacking me because that's what you do on budget day if you're the opposition and if you're really angry." It was a tax increase. "You promised not to do a tax increase." And he heckled me and shouted and screamed, and finally the speaker had to throw him out.
I'm glad you're over it.
No, I still find him a dear friend, and I'll never forgive him.
Very good. Well, we look with interest at what will take place tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. But in the meantime, I want to thank the three former finance ministers and former premier for coming into TVO tonight and helping us understand a little bit about what goes on behind the curtain. Ernie Eves, Janet Ecker, Greg Sorbera, many thanks.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Late last year, the Green Party of Ontario won just its second seat in the provincial legislature. Steve Paikin went to Queen's Park to find out what that meant to the party and the new MPP.
Get interested in democracy. Exactly. We want all the next generation.
How many times had you been in this building before you got elected?
0.
Seriously?
Once. No, once. We did a presser. Yeah, one time. Yeah, my campaign manager was walking in and I was like, and she's like, keep it. It's like, yeah, so we did one media thing before
So you
the
basically
election.
don't know this building at all.
So far this week I haven't got lost, but yeah, last week I had a few moments where I was like, which is the best way to get to the washroom? Kind of.
So the first time that you actually walked onto the floor of the chamber of the legislature was as an MPP. Is that right?
We did a tour, so with the swearing in, but yeah, past the front row seats, basically, yeah.
Can you describe for us what that moment was like as you got ushered into the chamber for the first time as a member of the legislature by your leader?
Pretty monumental, I guess. There's so many emotions that you're going through. It's hard to put a name on just one of them. So it was exciting. It was nerve-wracking. It was terrifying. I mean, yeah. So I use the word terraciting, you know.
Terraciting.
Terraciting.
Terrifying and exciting.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody stood and applauded.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen around here very often.
Okay.
So what did you infer from that?
I think that people are decent humans. Like, I like when we all rise. You know, there's so many meeting a guest, somebody who's had a birthday or an achievement, or a visitor who's given many years of service, or groups that are here to learn. So, you know, I think there's a great respect amongst all my colleagues for a lot of important occasions.
Our impression is there's not very much collegiality that goes on in these hallways. Is that a mistaken impression?
I do think it is a mistaken impression. I think, you know, I mean, as Greens, we always say put people before party. So what that means is we build relationships across all the party spectrum. And so I've had a great mentor in Mike Schreiner who is very liked and has good relationships in all the parties. So it's definitely what the Green Party puts out there and what we think we're voted in for. So I can't speak for everyone else, but I think we try to make sure that on one hand, we can kind of hold the government accountable and speak truths and put forward good solutions, but also recognize when they've done something really helpful.
Well, I saw Mike Schreiner get up in the House today, and he sort of did that. He started his speech by saying, I want to thank the government for.
Yes.
Now, if you want to finish the job, here's what else you can do.
Exactly.
So it's constructive opposition.
Yeah, I think that's how we hope to earn respect across the political spectrum, is by not being just black and white and negative or positive or just critical 100% of the time. I think it's important that we strike a balance.
I beg to inform the House that the clerk has received from the Chief Electoral Officer and laid upon the table a certificate of the by-election in the electoral district of Kitchener Centre.
When you walked in with Mike Schreiner for the first time, you took a wrong turn on the way to your seat. What happened there?
Well, as a social worker, I always talk about the lid flipping. So, you know, in our brains, our thinking brain sometimes gets hijacked and takes a little vacation when we're under a bit of stress. So even though we'd rehearsed things and they told me about the mace and like, don't go, wait, you know, don't shake right away. We got to do this thing first. So yeah, just the nerves. But yeah, that's okay. It helped me show my backwards robot, you know, which I know everybody really wanted to see.
That was very funny, actually. Yes.
I gotta do this first. I gotta do this first. Get to the point. Speaker, I have the honor to present to you and to the House Aislinn Clancy, member for the electoral district of Kitchener Centre, who has taken the oath and signed the roll and now claims the right to take her seat.
Now, let the honourable member take her seat.
Now, the first time I had to say your name on the air, I butchered it, like almost everybody does, because it's spelled A-I-S.
Yes.
L-I-N-N, but you do not pronounce it Aislinn. You pronounce it Aislinn.
Yeah.
So what's the story there?
Well, it's funny because it's a beautiful moment in time. I was in an equity conversation as a school social worker, and somebody told this beautiful story about like growing up and the teacher is not saying your name properly and just going with the flow, and then we're kind of reclaiming pronunciation as a sign of respect. So I'm grateful that I'm, you know, here in a moment in time where people want to say your name properly. So yeah, I'm Irish. My dad was born in Ireland, and so I always say Sean, S-E-A-N. You know, we always get that S right. That's my S, the Gaelic S. So proud to be Irish, and proud that I'm at a moment when people are taking a moment to ask people how to pronounce their names.
For the longest time, and I think I've covered every election that the Greens have run candidates, because that goes back to the 1980s.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, this party has only ever been able to elect one person, and you're number two. What does that mean to you?
I think folks realize the importance of climate. They realize that we stand for more than just climate. I think I was at a moment in time where people were disenfranchised with the old line parties. You know, they kind of have their lines that they say, and they try to stand for all things instead of sticking their neck out for certain things. So I also am lucky to have Mike Morris, our MP, voted in locally.
Got the same riding.
Exactly. So people saw what it meant to elect a Green, that you have someone whose vote isn't whipped, who can speak with authenticity about the wishes and needs of their community and how hard he works, and Mike Schreiner as well. So, you know, a lot of things came together in this moment to build confidence that voting Green was the right decision for people.
I am betting, though, that there are a lot of people who will watch this who will think, you know, if you're a member of a majority government, you can get some stuff done. If you're the member of the official opposition, you can make a lot of noise and bring some attention to things. If you're one of two in a room of 124, what can you really accomplish? What's the answer to that?
Well, Mike Schreiner, when we were chatting about the possibility of me running, gave me a bunch of examples about moving the needle, right? So we think about housing. He put forward a brilliant campaign on legalizing housing. I don't think that's the end. We've sparked political will. We are bringing forward solutions that aren't going to add millions and billions of dollars to the budget items, you know? So I think by bringing forward good solutions, by building political will, we really move the needle. And we always say, if people want to steal our ideas, like 407 tolls, for example, getting rid of those for truckers, if people want to take those ideas that we bring forward and build them into their party platform, it's a compliment. We always say people before party. Of course, you know, we work behind the scenes with all the people in the governing party to try to make sure we deliver for our community, make sure we're advocating for our community. But there's more to just politics than voting for something. You know, there's a lot that goes behind the scenes to shaping whatever gets put forward and also getting other work done.
So you can have an influence at the margins or beyond?
No, I think we shift the conversation. You know, I was talking to an MPP the other day who didn't really understand what a heat pump was. You know, so that to me says, okay, Aislinn, if you want heat pumps to become a norm in Ontario, my work begins that if I'm sitting down at the cafeteria table with any MPP in the House, I want to check in with them about our shared values, right? So a lot of politics goes on behind the scenes when we're trying to move forward the agenda, make amendments, build support for something that maybe it doesn't get recognized as our idea, but gets incorporated into other policies. So I think we say punch above our weight.
I didn't know that. So you're not allowed to drink coffee in the ledge?
No snacks.
Okay.
Food.
Yeah. Huh. So you got to come ready.
Yeah.
You got to be satisfactorily caffeinated before you get in that chamber.
Or get in the back room and have your snacks there while you watch TV.
Right. One of the traditions of this place that when a new member gets elected, at some point the premier either writes them a letter or comes over and shakes hands or something like that. That happen?
Yeah, we said a hello when I joined.
You did?
Yeah, and then since then people have been kind of hopping over and saying hi. So people have been pretty friendly, and in our little gaggle of independence, people kind of give me tips and cheer me on, so yeah.
Do $1 billion reno here.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Get voted in just to move down the street.
That's it? Well, do you know where they're going to move?
I don't know anything.
No?
Yeah.
Because I gather they're looking at a bunch of different properties. What do you remember about the day you were sworn in?
People's friendliness. Like lots of people coming over, looking forward to working with me, and a lot of kindness. I know we if people go to question period, they should see that there is a lot of back and forth, which I don't think is great for our profession. But at the same time, there's another side to those things that, people are many kinds of people outside of that moment in time.
Oh, this feels so fantastic to double the Ontario Green Caucus and to know that I've got a friend in the House sitting right next to me.
She is going to be right behind you, isn't she?
She will be right behind me, absolutely. And I think the two of us are going to make a perfect team together.
I went to your swearing in, and I'm going to show you the thing that stays with me.
Okay, well, that's sweet.
And here's the picture that I remember very well.
Can you make me cry? Oh, that's my kids, yeah.
You look like you were having a bit of a moment there.
Yeah, I feel like I really admire Jacinda from New Zealand. She's like just herself. I want to be authentic, and I cried during my inaugural speech. I'll probably cry again. To my partner, Ryan, I know we're all making sacrifices for me to be away from you and the kids. I hope I make you proud by sharing all your nerdy optimism, taking the solutions you share with me that are in full swing across the globe, and to push for a green economy that you believe in. To my kids, thank you for breaking my heart in ways I never knew possible. I will work as hard as I can to ensure that you and all the children of Ontario will have a chance for a healthy future with a roof over your head and all the tools you need to thrive. It's okay to be tender. To my fellow MPP. I think as a social worker and as a person, as a kid, pull up your socks, don't feel certain things, but I think I am an emotional person, and I think there's some wisdom there. So yeah, I'm going to lean into that. I hope to enter this chamber into every interaction with humility and compassion, and sometimes a joke. I'm Irish.
You got elected in a by-election, which means you're not going to serve a full term before you have to go back to the people and get them to either bring you back or not. So you got 2.5 years. Is that a bit daunting?
It's a blessing and a curse. It's tiring, but it's important. I've met a lot of people, and as a city councilor before that, I was in touch with different stakeholders. I was representing people. People saw the work that I was doing. So while I do want to continue to always earn the respect and trust of Kitchener Centre, I think I've built a bit of a foundation, and luckily with the Green Party, I think we really work really hard to show that we have integrity, we stick our neck out on issues, and we're really connected to our community members.
So complete the following sentence for me then. My time in politics, however long it lasts, will have been worth it if what?
We show some leadership on climate and equity. I think we need to point our ship in the right direction for future generations. And right now, the gap between rich and poor and the gap between where we need to be with transition, we're not there. So that's where I want us to point our ship.
You know, Aislinn, someday, regardless of how long you serve here, you've won an election. Someday, your name's going to be engraved up on the wall here like so many others. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm sure we all grew up and your mom was like, don't color on the wall. So it's pretty incredible. You know, I'm humbled by it. Like I didn't get into this gig because I'm looking for power or riches. I got into this because I really felt like I had the courage to represent my community for those reasons. And so, yeah, it's a real honor.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
It was put forward as the standard bearer of a new geological epoch, and the Royal Ontario Museum's first climate curator says there are powerful messages in the core of that tiny lake in Milton, Ontario for everyone.
The world is absolutely ready for a climate change curator. And I believe I'm the first, but I'm definitely not the last. So there's several of us now around the world. Museums are one of the most trusted institutions amongst the public. I've been working as a limnologist for the last 15 or so years, which is someone who studies lakes. I'm a professional scientist. I've been looking at how climate change impacts lakes around the world and how they also feed back with climate change through greenhouse gas emissions. It's part of understanding the world. I mean, a lot of it is still learning as we're undertaking this global experiment of climate change and seeing what the planet's doing in response. As a person who studies lakes, it's been really interesting having my first curatorial collections item being sediments from Crawford Lake. This is a replica of a sediment core from Crawford Lake. If you can imagine a metal tube that's full of dry ice and someone's out on the top of a lake and they put this out into the water and they sink it to the bottom, into the mud at the bottom of the lake, all of that mud will freeze to the core, and as you pull it up and bring it to the surface, you can imagine this was the water at the bottom of the lake. This is the surface sediments or mud at the bottom. And then each of these white lines that you can see is one summer going back in history. And as you get deeper, you're going further and further back in history. All lakes have that feature where as you go deeper in the sediments, they go further back in history. But this core replica is from a very special lake called Crawford Lake, just close to Milton, Ontario. It has these summer white lines that is called farving. And that's a really unique feature of this lake. It's because of the chemistry, because of the way the lake is shaped that it does this. That's why this lake has actually been selected in the last year as the candidate golden spike of the Anthropocene epoch. So this would be defined as an epoch supplanting the Holocene epoch, which is the last 12 or so thousand years that we are currently in, which would be now a new geological period defined by humanity's impact on the planet. So, how does climate change impact lakes, and how does that change the way that they emit greenhouse gas emissions? And then those greenhouse gas emissions change climate change again. So this is where we talk about, for instance, climate tipping points around the planet, and lakes can play a really important role in that. Recently, an international group of experts has actually voted down the decision to create a new Anthropocene epoch.
The concept of the Anthropocene is important. We get a response as scientists to the thick, meaty, data-rich report we submitted as a proposal. Of course, I'm disappointed that the committee voted no. I haven't heard anything formally back. Everything I've seen so far has been in the media, initially through the New York Times, because almost everyone I've seen who admits to have voted no talks about us being an Anthropocene.
From the 1290s to 1490s, we have two villages that were Atawandaron or Pre-Wendat villages, and they were farming corn and sunflowers. And there were probably several hundred people that lived by the lake around that time. After that, from around 1500 to the mid to late 1800s, we have a dark period where there was not any constant settlement, it seemed, around the lake. And this is also consistent with the Little Ice Age. Incidentally, the Little Ice Age was a period that during this period where the planet got somewhat cooler, so the northern hemisphere got about 0.8 degrees Celsius cooler. And there's a few little cool dips in there. There's some studies that have shown that the diseases that Europeans brought, especially smallpox, may have actually played a role in starting the Little Ice Age, in the fact that it led to a loss of 90% of indigenous lives in North and South America, and that led to a massive reforestation of the two continents. And it's believed that those forests may have drawn down as much carbon dioxide to actually create a global cooling during this period. So the Little Ice Age is a really interesting place to actually talk about the relationship between human health and planetary health and how that impacts societies around the world and the climate around the world. In the late 1800s, we have the Crawford family moving from England to Ontario, and they purchased the lake, so that's why it's called Crawford Lake today. And they took down a lot of trees all around the lake and built a sawmill, and that changed the chemistry of the lake in a significant way, where we can see a color shift, that impact of deforestation and construction around the lake. Moving forward around 1930s, we can see a very bright line that's associated with the Dust Bowl, in especially Midwestern North America. So you have a lot of sort of regional, continental climatic change around that time. In the 1950s, we see an increase in fly ash that's likely associated with Hamilton industry. So that's a byproduct of the burning of fossil fuels. And we also see plutonium increasing, which is a byproduct of testing of nuclear weapons around the world. So we can see these two really important markers of the Anthropocene epoch in what's called the Great Acceleration after World War II. So that's when really things started changing dramatically. And then moving forward, people have been looking at different impacts. For instance, even there's an algae bloom in the 1970s, which was really major in the lake, which is apparently kind of mysterious. People aren't sure why that happened in that year. And there's impacts of even the building of the visitor center around the lake. So there's a lot of history that's global and local that the lake speaks to. One of the things that I think is the most powerful about working with this core and the sediments from Crawford Lake and the story it tells is that, to me, it really changes how we talk about human impact on the planet. People often focus on nuclear weapons testings, and there's these pictures of mushroom clouds, and we think about all of the dark aspects of what people are capable of and what people have done. When we look at the history of any given lake, we don't look at the rise of plutonium with weapons testing. Since we do have this record everywhere on the planet, we do look for it, but we look for the drop, which is that testing's ban treaty. And I think it's interesting, what, again, I really love for talking about this lake is that we have a history that's not biased in any way. It's not an evil human story to me. It's recognizing that the planet is always listening, the lake is always listening. It's kind of a mirror to what we're doing. But it gives us a lot of insights in terms of how we should live. And for me, the biggest takeaway from that is moving away from this idea that our goal should be to have no impact on the planet. I think it's kind of an assumption for a lot of people that either we have an impact and it's bad and we're making things worse, or we create a national park or some kind of place that's cordoned off and we build a wall, we don't let people go there, and that's going to be the best case scenario if people don't go there. I think that's a fabrication. That's kind of an illusion. You know, there's always going to be some impact. There's always going to be climate impacts on areas now, even if we close them off. Really thinking then about, well, if we're always having an impact, we should think about how to flip it from a negative impact to a positive one. And what are the ways that we can live where we're actually interacting positively with the environment instead of negatively?
The science is good, and all of the science says that we need to reduce our consumption of fossil fuels as soon as possible and not feel frustrated by, it's like when you go on a diet, not feel frustrated that the first few times you skip dessert that you don't look like a supermodel. It's not going to make rapid change. It will take a while for it to become felt because there's a lot of CO2 in the atmosphere already, but anyone who cares beyond their own generation, if they have children or grandchildren, or if they care just generally about the planet into the future, must realize that these are steps that we have to take. And that line on the time scale that the Subcommission on Quaternary Stratigraphy is in charge of, that really is a small item compared to the big message of the science that the Anthropocene Working Group did for 15 years and came up with all of those compelling data that urge us to take action.
It's interesting, as a limnologist, as someone who studies lakes, I do think that there's an argument to be made in terms of understanding how quickly our ecosystems can return to prior conditions if you stop stressing them, if you stop pounding them or impacting them in these different kinds of ways with nutrients and hydrological changes. If we're going to say, no, we are not in the Anthropocene epoch, we can start thinking about, actually accepting that we can revert to the Holocene conditions that have been around for the last 12,000 or so years. And we can bring the Earth systems back to that place if we really embrace the right conservation ethics. And certainly there are a lot of things that are going to go back. If we stop adding greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, we can potentially bring the climate back within the next few, say, centuries to millennia. And that might seem like a long time. It's outside of our personal lifetimes, but it is still a very brief period of time when you think about geological periods in Earth's history.
Here's a look at something we're working on.
My experience, which I have sort of 6 aging parents in my life, is not an unusual one because there's different marriages and there's different systems and fewer children. And so that means we need to be really creative for how we actually help to support our aging parents and not assume that our healthcare system is going to do it for us.
That's coming up on the agenda.